public. This is a virtual meeting by Zoom. Any comments from the public? The public is welcome to make comments on matters on the agenda. And I guess, it does say my email address, my town email address is kevin.moynihan@newcanaanct.gov. If anyone wants to send comments, we will read them in the course of the meeting or before the end of the meeting. Tiger, well, it's my email address, so I'll watch out for you. That brings us to the CHP Solar Town and School updates. We have Joanne and Dan with us, and Katrina's with us, and has Penny Rasson joined us?
Yes.
Oh, good morning, Penny. Okay.
Good morning.
I think we have a full house now. I even see Linda. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
So we had bids back, very successful bids back on the PHP project at Saks, and very pleasantly surprised to have Aegis, which is the contractor for our wastewater treatment plant and highway garage project, which is still not up and running because of Eversource's failure to be able to connect the gas in the street. But otherwise, the system is up, installed, and ready to roll as soon as Eversource will connect the gas. But our experience with Aegis at the wastewater treatment plant and highway garage has been very successful, and we've learned a lot. And so Aegis came in as the low bidder significantly compared to some of the other bidders. And I think it's important we really focus on who Aegis is now, which I had not done. And Aegis is a Holyoke-based leading provider of CHP in the Northeast. They've installed either almost or over 1,000 CHPs facilities in the Northeast in the last since 1985. They're teamed up with a European partner, and they both manufacture and contract and install other manufacturers' equipment. So they came in with the low bid, and I think it's important also to realize that when you go with a CHP provider, you're actually they're going to build but also run your power plant for you. And it's important, I think, those who haven't gone over to see the installation at the highway garage and the wastewater treatment plant to understand how the CHP system works and the connectivity to the vendor who really monitors constantly and services and comes in and is really effectively running remotely your power installation. So I don't know if Joanne or Dan want to make any comments, or Joe, before we, there's one outstanding issue. We have to decide whether to proceed with one 75 kilowatt unit or two 35s, which is the recommendation from Aegis. They bid the same amount for either installation. I think it's important, we were supposed to have a meeting between the town and the Board of Ed to discuss this issue, and we need to do that. So we're not going to resolve it this morning, but how would you like to proceed? Joe, do you want to summarize the Aegis bid, or?
Well, we went through the Board of Selectmen the other last week just to get approval for the 409. For like you mentioned, you can get the 75 or the two 35s.
So can I just stop for Kevin? I just want to make certain, we haven't awarded these bids yet, and this is a public meeting. So just as a point of order, I don't really, until we award the bid and the Board of Ed Act and everything, I think we need to be very top end here if there's any, discussion. So, I would just say, I think the summary you've given to date is good. I don't think we want to get into anything else right now. And Joe, I don't know what you were going to say. So I'm not, I just wanted to make that, early on comment, because I don't think we should be discussing the details of these bids before, when they haven't been awarded.
They have been awarded.
Joe, can I ask, if they do install two, do they run in the lead lag setup?
No, they'll run parallel. They can run at the same time, but they can also run independently.
So the advantage would be that if one goes down, you still have the other?
Yeah, actually, Joe, Brian, let's not get into that detail right now. Let's get back to Penny's question or Penny's point. Well, the fact of the matter is Aegis came in as the low bidder by far against the other competitors, and they are the partner that we've chosen to use on the town side with the highway garage and they're very, they're the leading provider of CHP in the Northeast. I mean, once you find a company that works for you, I think there's little question we're going to go with Aegis. So if you want to discuss that now, but on the other hand, Joe put it on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen, and since it's the same price, whichever way we decide to go on the configuration, I think it's a little question. Aegis is the company we want to be with. I mean, if you have questions about that or you want to talk about it offline, we can do that.
I don't have any questions about Aegis. I just think that the details of the bid and we shouldn't get into in this meeting at this time. Okay.
How can we summarize this discussion about the CHP? The other aspect of this is the Board of Finance had authorized a second phase of CHP, which we've had discussion in the fact that the opportunity to bring CHP to the high school is a much bigger win for the town and the Board of Ed. Therefore, we need to have the discussion about having the Board of Finance transfer the funds that have been authorized for a second phase at Saks to the high school. We can always, I think we've come to an agreement that we will, operate Saks for a year and see after the installation of LED lighting and the solar to see what the configuration is and whether or not there ought to be further expansion of Saks. Personally, having studied it, I don't think we're going to add more capacity of Saks, and I think we ought to get on with the high school. But Joanne or Dan, do you want to address your view of that subject?
Yeah, I think that what Penny is expressing to you is that this needs to go to the Board of Education for review and acceptance with regards to phase one at Saks. And I think we've had the conversation about the funding for next year at the high school. Seems to make sense right now. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves with any conversation in public until the Board of Education has an opportunity to look at this and consider the bid specification and the proposal from Aegis.
So, well, again, there's supposed to be a meeting before the school vacation with the staff, and that didn't occur. So we want to move this along. When is the Board of Ed scheduled to function on this, Penny?
Joanne, the schools have been out after such a busy winter. Came in right after we went out. So I don't know if it's on tonight's agenda. I don't think it is. But we will certainly, take all action to move it along expeditiously. Would be, my thought. It's just been difficult because everybody's been out for the last, week and a day.
Right. Well, I don't know if we've discussed this further now, or we will certainly.
I think we can discuss, if you all want to discuss high school. I mean, I think that, that's nothing pending. We can, I think we can start working on the high school, but I defer to Joanne and Dan on that one.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Just a question. Apologies for not knowing the answer to this. Is this body, Penny, would this body be helpful in terms of the Board of Education and its analysis of this particular bid, in terms of, the views from Tiger and others, members of this committee, in terms of, as you take it, whether it's tonight or 2 weeks from now, is there something that this body can do to help with the process of considering Aegis? I just want to understand sort of the role and who is evaluating what and helping the Board of Education decide how to go forward.
I think we've gotten, memos and information from the engineers involved, and we can, and we're talking with Joe all the time. about this project. I mean, Joanne and Dan can talk about it. But I think there's good coordination there, and lots of conversations. So, you know, in terms of the technical expertise that the town has, you know, I think we have all of that. That's all. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to make certain, you know, we move forward. You know, I just think in a public meeting, you have to be careful about pending bids and what is discussed and what isn't discussed.
Thank you.
You know, my view of this, the CHP is a primary objective of doing is saving money for the taxpayer. And this project is in the town budget, and the benefits will redound to the Board of Education's operating budget, but the town will be paying for this for the next really 2 decades in order to save a lot of money for the Board of Education budget and for the town taxpayer. So this doesn't really have much to do with education or how the boilers are going to work. It really has to do with saving money for the taxpayer. So we'll have a conversation with the Board of Ed, but again, I think I'm very pleased with Aegis, and I, you know, had it come out to a different point with a different contractor, I think we would have had a different discussion. But I think people have to do their due diligence on Aegis and understand which partner we're choosing to go forward, not only with the schools, but also other projects in town. You know, Neil's been working with the library. We have to decide what we're doing with the library. The library has proposed an all-electric building, and that's another subject for another day. But the opportunity to use gas and manufacture electricity ourselves is part of the whole strategy of the Connecticut's decade of focus on alternative energy. Eversource has a new CEO. His focus is on alternative energy, and the whole distributed energy generation is the whole strategy, not only in Connecticut, but throughout the nation right now. So it's something we need to get on with, and there's great tax savings for the taxpayer. So anyway, I think perhaps we'll move on the agenda. So the other topic is solar on the town and school facilities, and Mark Robbins is here to give us a summary. We're underway at West School. Mark, you want to take it from solar?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yep.
All right. And just to clarify from my own background, Joe, when you received the bids for the CHP for Saks, was that publicly open and read aloud? Did that transpire?
Yes.
It did. Okay. All right.
As we do with all of our bids, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, no, to the extent that I'm under, you know, any oath or obligation in terms of that, but I just want to make sure that, so that the other bidders at this point know what the pricing was already. So that already took place. Okay. Yeah. So the 2 projects we have under implementation right now, or under development implementation, are West School and Saks. We've got power purchase agreements executed between the school and the investor. We have approval from Eversource, conditional approval from Eversource to interconnect those 2 systems, and which is kind of a big deal because every time we get to the point where we fully design a system and we submit it to Eversource for their approval, what they're looking at is whether or not the grid can accept the power back and forth. That has to do with the net metering and whether or not the grid can actually handle pulses from the building going back to the grid at such times that the host is not using all of the juice and is going to feed it back to the grid for a meter credit. We've sailed through all of those each time, but I'll let you know, I've got 2 clients in Westchester. They've taken 1.5 years to get through that approval with a 6-figure cost, where Con Edison reaches out and asks the client to upgrade the local transformers. And I've also experienced that in New London with Eversource and in Bridgeport with UI, where they're big costs. But we've been very lucky in New Canaan with every application. There has been no co-payment required from Eversource to upgrade the grid to allow for 2-way power to the net metering. So where we are right now, and Dan can jump in. I mean, I have some photos I could share, but West School is the first school where we're installing it on just on the metal roof, on the standing seam ridges of the metal roof. So the panels have a rack that clips on without penetrating the roof, and then the panels slide in. And that work, the implementation of the material arrived a week ago over Easter break, which is really exciting during a pandemic to see material arrive. And we were able to install all of the racking on the building last week and open and create a trench between the front of the building and the back of the building for the power, because we're connecting the solar system on the roof of the gym in the back of West School, but yet the electrical service is towards the front. And that was inspected, and that trench was backfilled, and the concrete patchwork took place, and they've started installing the panels. So I think that's really good. They're slightly ahead of their schedule, and final engineering and reviews occurring as we speak for the implementation of solar on the Saks cafeteria roof. Just to give you a little perspective on the size of the system at West School, most recent estimates of electrical usage for West School was 398,000 kilowatt hours a year. That's how much the school has been on average taking from the grid. And this system, which is principally just located on the gym roofs, will generate just about 350,000 kilowatt hours a year. So that means this solar system is going to offset our electrical usage there by 87%. So, you know, that's a big deal. And I'm checking this. I think we're locked for 25 years fixed at about 3.5 cents. So that's pretty exciting. So the savings will really grow over time if you expect utility rates to increase over time. So that's kind of where we are right now. In terms of systems implemented to date, we have 4 town systems, and then there is a system on South School and a system on East School. I don't have the East School numbers with me right now. I wasn't involved in that one, but the ones that the South School, as of last month, generated about $49,000 in savings over 15 months. And the 4 town systems with this one collectively saved the town $124,000 over the last approximate year of operation. For the Nature Center, it's only been up and running for 8 months. So we don't have a full year for all of these yet, but not including East School. Dan, you could probably throw in a number for me just as an estimate, but not including East School, we've saved about $124,000 over the last year with the 4 town systems, plus throwing the South School into that mix.
Any questions for Mark about the current installations? And
sounds good.
So the next,
Want to get a little bit on the next phasing?
well, the high school.
Well,
Joanne and Dan could address the roof first, but then so I understand the high school plans to do the entire, or the Board of Ed plans to do the entire high school roof in one summer, which would make it available for solar after that is completed. And Mark was going to apply for Xerexes, as discussed previously, for the high school roof. So Joanne, can you update us on the schedule for the high school roof?
Sure. So the high school roof is going to be done this summer, 100% this summer. We're working on the schedule right now. Excuse me. A little cough. So we do plan to have it completed substantially for the beginning of school. And once we get the Xerex, I assume we're going to be going out to bid for the solar project at the high school. We've identified with our roof design professionals and the structural engineer where solar can be installed on the high school roof. So we'll have a good sense of where, how much can be handled on the roof, and have that project potentially start in September, October.
what's the annual electric bill for the high school?
200,000 with demand. So between the CHP and the solar, it's going to be a significant savings, I would think.
Right, so between south and east and west, and we're going to significantly reduce the electricity cost for the schools.
East has been energized for 5 months, I believe it is right now, so we don't have a good snapshot of, summer months running the solar. So in another 5 or 6 months, we'll be able to really have a good annual saving number.
As far as the, we're going to go on to the discussion, Mark, about the Eversource opening the auction for Xerexes at the end of the month.
Right. So we're expecting in the next 2 weeks that Eversource will open for bids. This is Dutch auction. It's this reverse auction. You have to prepare your paperwork, you submit it, and then they close the auction, they review the numbers, and they start to award bids to the lowest, to the request, whoever requested the least amount of money first. We did a memo for Penny where we sort of looked at, historical pricing and where that's going and came up with an estimate. I think we were looking to bid in, and I'll refresh this with the Board of Ed, but I think we were looking to bid in at about $78, going in a little bit under where we were last year because it's gotten so competitive and people are sharpening their pencils that we didn't get the bid. We weren't selected last year. So we don't want to be as aggressive as we were last year. But so we will submit the bid end of this month as soon as the auction opens. And then we wait about 6 weeks to while they reconcile the bids and then start to reach out to counterparties. So we're 2 months away from knowing whether or not we're accepted. I'm optimistic that we will be accepted. So that's for the mediums. Now the smalls are still open on a rolling basis, which means if there were any other projects, for example, like Dunning Field lights, you could apply for them right now. And that takes about a month turnaround to find out if you were selected. And we had talked about Dunning Field lights. I don't know what the usage looks like at Dunning right now, but we had a discussion about a year ago that the high school would consider hosting the panels on if the structure could handle it. The panels for Dunning Field could be located on the high school gym extension roof, subject to roof condition. And then we would run the line under the parking lot and power the field lights. I was just looking at numbers over the weekend, and I think those Dunning Field lights were consuming about 68,000 kilowatt hours a year. So it would be a small system, but then that was 2 years ago. Then last year it was down to about 30, down to less than half during the COVID year. So I'm not sure if that's all COVID or what, but it's something you might want to take a look at. But in terms of the medium system we apply for right now for the high school, if that was awarded, the maximum you could build it out would be about 350,000 kilowatt hour system. So it would be producing about 400,000 kilowatt hours. I think the building consumes about 2 million. So just to put it in perspective, this award is not going to cover the whole roof. And this award would probably generate right now about 25% of their total electric usage before you get involved in energy efficiency projects and CHP.
The discussion about Dunning Field is because the Dunning Field lights are on a separate electric meter and Xerexes are awarded by meter. So the opportunity to use the gymnasium roof, which is adjacent to Dunning Field, would be an opportunity to really bifurcate the high school into two uses. And so there's a lot more work to be done there in terms of coordinating the plan for CHP and solar and further energy savings at the high school. But there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's why the discussion about moving the CHP onto there and begin to function on that is relevant. So that's
So-
what,
Joanne and Dan, the roof project that we're doing at the high school means that the auxiliary gym is capable of holding solar. Is that correct? Do we know that yet?
We had it analyzed by Tom DeBlasi, who's our structural engineer, and I'd rather have his report in front of me, which I don't, to answer that question. But there
Okay.
is real estate up there that can, hold the full amount of solar that we're looking at for both the medium and the small, and they just need to be separated somehow, in terms of, the different meters. So I'm not so concerned about that. I do believe the gym area is one of the prime areas of real estate for the solar projects.
Okay, great, thanks. And Joanne's coming in from Florida from where she's away, so thank you for coming this morning.
Sure.
the other thing about the Dunning Field lights is that they're, how old are they? 18 years old, and old technology in terms of lighting. Just switching to LED lighting would be a savings in itself. But what's the cost of switching to like $400,000?
Fortunately, yes. Yeah, it was quite, because you need to bring everything down, bring everything back up again.
Yeah, so I don't quite understand why it's so expensive, but there's different ways of tackling the long-term cost of Dunning Field lights, and those lights are used extensively. I mean, it was the biggest part of the separate budget for Dunning was the lights.
So out of curiosity, in terms of how ZRECs are awarded, you have it, they're awarded per meter. So if we get the medium ZREC for the high school, then we cannot also get a small ZREC for the high school?
Well, as Mark
Still, you
explained,
commission it.
the small ones are constantly available. Eversource only opens the medium and large periodically. So we can go and get the small for Dunning right now for the gymnasium roof, because they're always available.
Right. No, I was just wondering if you can get a medium and a small for the high school, not leaving Dunning out of it, if, because there's certainly all that, or if you just have to go by meter, you can only get one project per meter.
You can do what you're suggesting, Penny. And actually we proved that over at the wastewater plant, but the trick is you have to commission. So if you're awarded a medium, you have to install and energize and go through all the permitting, and then your meter is released to you reapply. You could reapply for a medium or a small. The thing is that we'd love to do that for the high school. If we can get a solar system, if we get a ZREC awarded for the medium awarded for the high school and installed like September, October, November, we could apply then immediately for another small to add on. And I did that at Wilton. The problem is we don't know right now if there will ever be another medium. So the plan for the high school probably should be, let's secure the medium right now, install it as soon as we can, and then we could still apply for another small before end of year. So you can add RECs to it once you commission it. And then
Right. Well, I don't think we'd be able to apply this year, but we could apply next year, because the roofing work was going to start, Joanne, you said in the fall, right?
No, the roofing work is going to start in May.
In May. Okay. So then when would be our schedule for potentially putting on solar?
Would be September, October.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So yeah, and we tested that over at the wastewater plant. We applied for a small, installed it, commissioned it, and then we were awarded another medium. So we have another medium we can install over at the Department of Public Works complex. So we know that methodology works. So if the Board of Ed is able to get the roof done, or substantially, or at least get like a third of the roof done, or half the roof done this summer, we could install a medium. And before, I don't know when they'll be out of money for the smalls, but I'm just gonna assume year end. So if we could commission a medium sometime September, October, in theory, we could be awarded another small before end of year. And you have a year and a half to install it once you're awarded that, before it starts to lose value. So you could do more than a medium this summer if we, if we're successful with the application.
So Mark, what's the timeline? Because we can't go out to bid on a PPA until we know what the ZREC is, right?
Well,
So we have to know what our ZREC is before we go out for PPA bids, so people can bid using the ZREC. So so the first step then would be to get an answer to, do we have our medium ZREC? Is that correct?
I think there's two ways to look at it. One is we could go out, well, we did do an RFP. And when we posted this RFP that you're building West and Saks under right now, we did an RFP, last summer, 5 buildings, multi-building RFP. And we didn't have the ZREC for the high school back then. So we put in an estimate. So we had a known quantity for West and Saks, everything they were bidding on, but we told them, give us a price, assuming we got an $80 ZREC. We didn't. So we could go back to those bidders and say, here's what we've got, or recalculate your numbers, assuming a $78 bid. There could be some way to do it. We absolutely could go out right now and say, here's the electric usage, here's the timeline when the roof will be ready, here's this, we're bidding for the medium ZREC, we just don't have it yet. Can you give us a price, assuming we get a $78 ZREC? So we could definitely go out to bid with this being still an estimate. But it certainly helps the bidders are probably likely to be more responsive knowing that you have a ZREC.
Right. So when do you think we'll know about the ZREC then?
I would say early June.
Okay. Which is plenty of time to go out to bid for a project that wouldn't start until the fall. Right.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. And we have all the information together. It's sort of just kind of a re-release of, if you wanted to go out to bid, it would be a re-release of the document and the data we already have. And
yeah, the other piece of this puzzle, Penny, is the library, because Neil's on the building committee for the library, and the library is planning on solar. And if we can go out as a package of bids, we're more likely to get more interest from investors who want to do larger systems. And so we've been talking to Stone about what the plan is because a year from now there'll be a roof on the new library. And it makes sense for us. We're going to own 2/3 of their electric bill going forward for the future. So it makes sense for us to understand what their plans are for the solar and whether we can act as a community and get a better overall package.
And the great news is they have a lot of choices.
Well, again, from the investor point of view, it's just the economics. How big a system, and
right.
Recall when we went out to bid last summer, some of the bidders didn't want the small projects on the town side. Others gave the same price for the whole package. And same thing with respect to Waveney Care Center. The investors look at it purely in terms of the numbers. What's your revenue coming from the ZRECs? How many, how big a quantity of panels are we buying? The whole world of solar is changing because of what's going on with Washington. And so the idea would be to try to maximize our buying power by combining projects for a bidder and get the best.
Oh, okay, good. That's great.
Yeah.
And the other party that ought to be playing in this game is the YMCA, which cries out for solar on their building. That said, I think obviously there's a lot of moving pieces. Getting back to the CHP at the Mark is also going to be working on getting the Eversource incentives for the boilers. That's your piece, Mark?
Yes. Yeah. Working on the incentive for the boiler that's for the condensing boiler that was just installed. SAC, so far there's just one. So we're just waiting on the paperwork to be returned from the certificates to be returned from OLA. And they may be working on that on a parallel path also, but that incentive, and Joanne, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's approximately $68,000 just on the boiler. It should be just on the boiler alone.
Yes. It doesn't cover labor, it does cover the material, which is about 60,000+. I do believe OLA is working on that app. We'll confirm.
Okay. Does that cover the topic of CHP and solar? Any questions, comments from anybody?
I just have one comment. It does get confusing and anecdotal with all of the stories everyone has. Is there some uniform way we're going to communicate this? A chart that shows maybe usage. I thought it was very interesting the percentage of West School that was covered or not. It would be a shame if that just disappeared in an anecdotal reference versus having that actual charting that's uniform between different facilities and all that.
Well, Mark, you could address the having the panels that will be on the town website.
Well, there are a couple things here. Actually, Joe had asked me to come up with a very simple link, and we actually got one that I think Joe's working on posting to the town website, so you can have a hyperlink to look at the 4 town buildings. Joanne has a hyperlink for and they've got a kiosk over there at South School, maybe one at East, I'm not sure yet. But I think what I'm hearing from Neil, and actually I could send those links out so everybody could just click on and see what we're producing on all the town systems right now. So that's an easy thing. But I think what Neil is asking for is like a consolidated, like where we are right now and how much we're producing, what percentage that is of the total energy consumed, and then maybe adding like CHP, and maybe, is that what you're looking for, Neil? Like sort of like a total,
sort of like a project line of but coordinating all the projects, in some sort of easy reference cover page.
I think it's a great idea, Neil.
okay, you mean that looks at gas and electric?
Well,
Well, for example, South School is almost entirely taken off the grid, and it sounds like the West School is going to also be almost entirely taken off the grid. There'd be no reason to add CHP to those because the solar is doing the job to reduce the dependence on Eversource. And East School presumably will be the same thing. That's a big installation. So, but I think Neil's looking for the numbers to see what we're saving in the respective facilities.
Exactly. In the end, you'd like to say the bottom line is we save this from alternative energy sources.
Right.
Right.
If you think of this as a graph that is, the town heading toward a zero carbon footprint, how are we doing? What's our progress over the course of the last year and then going forward, into the next 3-4 years?
It becomes a benchmark year, and then you build off of it and you can measure your progress.
Right. Great idea, Neil.
Any other questions? We will move on to Tiger for other project updates on the town side. And
Okay. Thank you very much.
Joanne, when is the roof coming to the Board of Finance for the bond authorization?
I believe it's in April. Lunda has been working on that with the bond council, and it's on the agenda for April.
We're bringing those in May, Kevin.
Oh, in May, I'm sorry.
Yes, because Sandy Dawson has to prepare the resolution language and all of that. So we're bringing all of the capital projects in May.
And then they go to the council in June, Linda?
And then they go to the council in June just because of the publishing requirements. They have to publish 2 successive weeks. And because of the timing of the advertiser, we can't make the very next town council meeting for those to happen. Unless we publish assuming that the Board of Finance is going to approve as is.
So Lunda, that could create a problem with us for the timing of the project if we have to wait until June for the final approval. What we have right now is the Board of Education has approved a letter of intent, which has been sent to the lowest qualified bidder. However, they they have to procure product. And I don't know that they would do that before a contract.
Okay, we could work on that. We could carve that out if we need to. I'll work with Sandy Dawson. We've done it before this way, where we can get both approved in May between the 2 bodies.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Do you want to?
Sure. I'll give you an update as to where we stand on various projects. So the most impactful right now is, well, as of 9 o'clock this morning, Route 123 is closed for the next 3 weeks in the vicinity of the Field Club. That's for a DOT project of a replacement of a culvert. They list it as a bridge, but it's necessarily a culvert underneath 123. There's a detour for Canoe Hill. You come down 123, turn onto Canoe Hill, then onto 106, and that could get you around the area. We put in additional signage in the Rosebrook area to have people avoid Rosebrook itself, since we didn't want them to consider going on Rosebrook or Brushy Ridge. Those are for people who use Waze. So that's going on. That'll be for the next 3 weeks. We are trying to accommodate the one resident who's directly affected. There's a couple of residents, but one extremely affected, whereby allowing her child to get to the SATs tomorrow morning. So we won't close the road on her side and allow access in and out up until that time. And then at that point, it'll be closed entirely. Excuse me. We are working on River Street and the Waveney parking lot, the new additional parking lot there. Contractors finished with the granite curbing installation up at Waveney, graded the area, looking to pave probably next week, either later part of this week or next week. And he's moved to River Street to continue the work there and hopefully finish within the next month on River. We are out to bid on our local roads project. That's sort of in conjunction with Eversource, specifically on Brinkerhoff, Mortimer, and Lockwood. Those are the 3 that we want to get done. And we're trying to work with Eversource on getting everyone that wants gas in that area hooked up. The rest of the roads that we have in the project are outside of Eversource's realm, so to speak, or area where gas expansion is going. We have asked them to facilitate Main Street and Gower Road, since those are 2 heavily traveled roads and roads that we're receiving the most complaints on. So we're asking them to expedite that. The unfortunate thing is that Eversource went through a management change. So our longtime project manager, Charlie Francis, who did a fantastic job ushering this project through the past 2 years or so, he was instrumental in getting rid of Ferreira and bringing in Burns. And then working through it, he's been relocated to their central or northern district, and we have 5 or 6 new managers down here taking over the project. Unfortunately, what else do we have? We got
the Nature Center.
The nature. Oh, thank you. The greenhouse, the Nature Center is down. We had some residents coming and asking for materials even after we told them that they couldn't, and we had exhausted all possibilities as to reusing any of the materials themselves, but it's down. The last bid is to put it into a dumpster and then take care of some of the soils in and around the area. Then we'll backfill it and turn it into a garden. The Nature Center lot was repaved over their break of last week. The driveway and the parking lot looks very nice. I suggest everyone go down and take a look at it. They did a really nice job and kind of transformed the entire Nature Center now, so it looks into the 21st century, so to speak. And then as far as Aquarium's concerned, they're on a break for the next week while they sanitize and energize the temporary mains that they put on Main Street and on Church Street. Then they'll be back to finish the tie-ins in that area. And then in mid-May, they're going to come in and start on Cherry Street and work their way to down Cherry to Main and Main to Locust. That's going to take them all the way to late September, possibly early November, so to speak. That'll be entirely at night. And during the summer, they're going to tackle the stretch on Elm Street from Park Street to Grove Street. Trying to facilitate that or do that during the summer months when everyone will be away. And then at some point in time during that time, Eversource will come in and take care of the gas from 106 on Main Street up to Locust, turn right on Locust and get down to Forest Street. They're still waiting on their final permitting from the DOT on that work. But that should be coincident with the work that's being done with Aquarian. I think that kind of gives you everything that I had on my list, so to speak.
And the West Road Bridge is,
That'll be Joe. Joe can give you a little update on the West Road Bridge and the Playhouse itself.
Yeah. So we're excited. The West Road Bridge is scheduled to be paved this week. It was scheduled today, but the rain, we postponed it. So it'll be paved, and then we have to get the guardrails measured, ordered, and then complete the stonework on the bridge. So it's moving along quite nicely ahead of schedule. We're scheduled to open it up in June, mid-June, and we're definitely going to be done before that.
I'm sure you won't be. That's fine. Take your time, enjoy yourself.
And then as far as the Playhouse roof, that went out to bid, which includes the two major roofs on the Playhouse, the slope roof and the roof that's actually over the theater. It's about 85% of the overall roofs. We received 5 bids, and they were all nice, fairly close bids for at least the lowest 3. So we'll bring to the Board of Selectmen a recommendation to go to contract with the lowest bidder once we vet them out completely. I'm planning on putting that memo together and to request to be on the Board of Selectmen meeting next week.
and then we'll address solar on the Playhouse roof as well.
Yeah, we have the engineer coming out this week to do the analysis to make sure that it can support the solar on the roof.
And then we are also, in conjunction with our investigation of operators for the theater, we're looking at some other things that have to be done inside the theater. And Joe, we're working with consultants on both ADA and other issues in the interior of the Playhouse building. So lots going on there, and I'm not sure we're going to make our April timeframe to make an announcement, but we're working on it.
Right. And the only other thing we had was the Waveney House. The upgrades are ongoing. We have had some material procurement issues as far as the tile for the loge specifically. It's coming out of Italy, and we're looking at a late June, early July delivery date on that. So our schedule has shifted a little bit, but that's something that's completely out of our control. He is working on the western ramp and the fire escape itself. And then we're working on, there's a couple of doors that have to be manufactured. They're specialty doors in the area. So he's working on that as well. We're trying to coordinate that with the schedule for the Waveney House and to see if we can have both things coincide. There should be access to the patio, just might not be access to the loge. So there'll be access to inside the building to the patio. Just we might have to quadrant off some areas to then make it safe during construction. We have a couple of weddings in the beginning. Then the governor has just said that post-prom activities might be allowed. And then we have a good host of weddings in the later summer and early September range. But we are working with the Recreation Department on that scheduling now.
Let's see. Does that pretty much recap all the town capital projects?
Yeah, I kind of rolled that in with the Eversource one as well. We are still working with them on Upper Elm Street, Grove Street, Pine Street, that area. And then with the new managers, I'm trying to coordinate with our final restoration of the roads that are slated for this year, taking into account the fact that they lost last year, and try to make sure that everyone who wants service gets service. I have a petition on Old Studio Road right now, and I have a woman helping me try to coordinate through there to make sure there's about a half a dozen houses that still want gas. So we're trying to get gas there, and then we could bring that road forward, similar to what we've done on others.
As I mentioned earlier, Eversource just announced a new CEO, and I'm going to write a letter to him congratulating, but also thanking him for their commitment to New Canaan, both on the gas side and they also own Aquarian Water. So there's, for better or worse, Eversource is a real necessary partner for us, and it's frustrating to have to push them so much to get them to do what they should be doing. But I just want to mention we're there's a lot of opportunity with Eversource, but also a lot of frustration. So.
Did the chairman, the old chairman, move up to executive chairman?
Yeah, he's executive chairman. Continue to make his $13 million a year.
It's a pretty good deal.
Let's see. Anything else that we want to cover? I would mention we had a balloon float last Wednesday with the proposed cell tower, public safety tower at 1837 Ponus Ridge. I went over, observed it, and it's inconspicuous to most. And I also have a report from Homeland Towers that the carriers are very interested in that location, besides A&T, who's already stepped up. And there's the carrier, all of a sudden the carriers are having a totally different attitude about New Canaan in many locations, because I think the focus is off New York City, and they're focusing on the suburbs where where people want to stay home and work. And so I'm very pleased with the progress we're making with the carriers and Homeland Towers. I agree.
Had no other, nothing new on the horizon. I kind of rolled that all into the project update itself.
Okay. Last month, Neil had asked we address the movie theater, and I think we sort of addressed that, Neil.
Yeah, correct. That's good.
And then as far as the Waveney campus, we addressed. So is there anything, any questions about today's agenda items? And I'm not sure what we'll focus on for next month, but
I just one thing here, Mr. Yappy, but the rec department, I thought that they were going to come back with the use of Waveney, the most optimal way to use it or something.
We are beginning to work on that topic with Tucker. Tucker's going to be focusing on that. So we're beginning to work on that, Neil.
Okay.
Perhaps for next month.
Okay, thanks.
Kevin, the only other thing we had was the bump outs on Elm Street. I don't know if you wanted to.
Sure, go ahead and mention that, because that'll be brought to the police commission next week. Or
that'll be brought to the police commission next week, and then we were asked to bring it to TDAC as well. I think the night after. So we are looking at potentially bumping out the sidewalks on Elm Street, basically envisioning what the barricades are doing right now. As a increase in pedestrian safety. It was part of when we did our look at a bike loop, and the Westcog helped us with that. Some of the pedestrian upgrades that they had suggested we had been looking at as well. So we're looking at bumping out the sidewalks from the intersection with South Avenue up to and through the Playhouse on the northern side, and then on the southern side, the crosswalk at the Playhouse itself, and then the intersection of South Avenue and Elm Street. What that'll do is that should help us on reducing the pedestrian crossing length of the crosswalks, and then protecting the areas adjacent to the crosswalk, whereby right now it's striped 25 feet on either side. If you have it a hard bump out, you can actually reduce that requirement in certain locations. And what it turns out to be is we would lose 5 spaces on the northern side and gain 5 spaces on the southern side. So it would be a net zero change. So we need to bring that to the police commission next week, and then we'll bring it to TDAC for an informational, and then we'll go forward based upon approval by the police commission.
So I'm sorry, just on that, those bump outs, are those just for pedestrians, or is that going to create any more space for outside dining?
It would allow for additional space of outdoor dining, similar to what we have right now. But the main focus is it would be pedestrian safety. What we have are in those areas that are hashed. We're having a lot of people park in those areas, which is then closing off the accessible aisle for individuals with disabilities. And then it's avoiding the safety issue, right? So they're parking in areas where we're saying it's unsafe to park. So we striped it. The best way to do that is to hardscape it and then prevent that access. And then the secondary benefit is that, yes, we could then utilize those areas for additional outdoor dining or for additional retail space, depending upon that timing.
And
Penny,
Tiger, how do you gain back 5 spaces on the south side? How does that work?
Excellent question. So basically what happens is right now we've got a stripe 25 feet on either side of the crosswalk. On the tailing edge of the crosswalk itself, where cars backing out, you can't necessarily gain any space back, right? Because as the car comes back out into the lane, it needs about 24 feet to get out into the lane. So that bump out area, you can't. But on the front, on the leading edge of it, you can take away that entire 25 feet, right? Because now it's hardscaped and protected because the car can't, in essence, jump the curb. Okay. So we gain spaces on the leading edge. We don't necessarily gain spaces on the following edge or the tail edge.
Okay.
It's a great question.
I was going to mention, Penny, that the Greenwich is expanding their bump outs as permanent bump outs to accommodate outdoor dining in Greenwich. And this bump out will help several restaurants. And we may want to look at doing some further bump outs just for the restaurants in the future.
Okay, no, it sounds great. If there's a diagram of it, I was listening to all the words, but it didn't, like on the roads, but didn't quite get it into my head. So I'd love to see just where the bump out's going to be, but I don't want to slow this group down.
That's fine. We can send that. We have a schematic. Maria did a nice sketch on it. We can send to everyone.
I'd love to see that. Thank you.
No problem.
Great. I think it's a great idea.
So the focus the next few weeks is going to be on the library with the Board of Finance and the Town Council, focusing on the MOU, and that's a $10 million capital project from the town's point of view, and one that we need to really focus on their energy plan with their solar and their building heat, and then the police department building, the building committee will meet in May. I'm not sure for our May meeting they'll have the results of that analysis of the South Avenue location, probably not until the end of May, but that's moving forward, and the companion look at possible alternative locations if we should decide to build a new building elsewhere. So that's moving forward. And that brings us up to the hour. Any questions anyone has, or any suggestions for next month besides library and possibly police department? I'm mindful of George's suggestion that we focused on a topic, and I think hopefully by next meeting we'll be beyond the CHP at Saks and moving on to understanding what we're going to do with this solar project for the rest of the year.
I have a question just in terms of my homework assignment. Neil and Stuart had sort of asked about putting together kind of an energy plan for the buildings, like kind of a status of total, I guess, electric, gas, current usage, and then what's the future look like as we add solar and CHP. So, I'll sort of put together what the scope looks like, and subject to approval by Tiger and Kevin, what that deliverable would look like and cost. But just right now when we're brainstorming, Neil and Stuart, what do you see, what's the scope of that? Like, what buildings did you want to see? Just town buildings, schools, include the library, Dunning Field? Like, what's the scope of that energy?
Mark, let's take that offline, okay?
Yeah, I could take a few minutes.
Yeah, I really want to keep to the hour, and we are coming up on the hour. But okay. Mark, we will take that up with Neil and George and Tiger. And with that, I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I didn't check to see if we had any public comments. I doubt that we did, but let me just check. I forget that. As you may have read in the media, we're looking to go to back to in-person meetings. So maybe possibly May we might be planning an in-person or hybrid meeting for this group. I don't see any comments other than a few nasty. I don't see any comments. Okay, I think we had a motion to adjourn. Thank you all, and we will talk to you in May.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.